Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Secure Dental, and I am Nazis Jaffrey again. Today, I want to dive into a story that I think is going to hit home for a lot of you listening. And I was very excited because it's very close to me, somebody who I've worked closely and I've watched her really, really closely develop into a really astonishing clinician right now. We talk about a lot of grind that, hey, the dental school has a grind. But our guest today, she did the dental school and she kind of did two things. She's done it twice, first as an educator, and then first as a student, and then also an educator, and then as a candidate for her own clinical license. She is now an associate in our Foster office, and she is here to pull some curtains on the transition from the student to a teacher, academia, to a high speed reality of private practice. Hey, Dr. Yoon, thank you for joining me today after your clinical work. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to be here to talk about this.
Yeah. So, I worked with Dr. Yoon firsthand at Secure Dental in a few practices, and I can tell you her dedication is top notch. She did not give up from the time we talked to her casually one time to her interview to the person she is right now. And she's brought her teaching abilities um, to her dedicated clinical structure that she has today, and she maintains it, and she's developed into a leader position in the office. She takes care of the staff, she takes care of her patients really well. So, what I want to ask you, Dr. Yoon, is the why. After being the faculty, what was the spark or a moment you realized you wanted to be a clinician?
Yeah, so I think for me, I even when I was, working as faculty, I really did miss the the direct patient communication and relationship with the patients. And because as a faculty, you want the students to be able to, directly work with the patients for the most part. And also the students would get a little upset if I was too involved. So I would always want to take a little step back and be more of like a guider, not not taking over the spotlight. And I really did want to provide that for my students because I remember being a student and I wanted to be like, okay, like I am the dentist here, I have the authority, like I want to be able to figure this out on my own. So I really wanted to support that for my students.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of hard, even when I'm working with associates sometimes, and it's the few days into their first few days, and I'm like, let me do it. My fingers and my eyes and my hand, everything is like, let me do it, let me do it. But then you have to step back. You're like, no. You give them the wings and you let them fly. You're like, no, let
Hmm.
them do it. It is very itchy, especially when you are born a clinician. I think you were born a clinician. You were pretty dedicated to going towards dentistry, right? So tell me
Yes. Hmm.
about about you. How did you come into dentistry, and did you always want to be a dentist?
So I think I deep down did, but I didn't really. So a little bit of background. I was born and raised in Korea, and I did most of my schooling up to high school in Korea. Um, so in Korea, it's honestly kind of tough to get really good grades, and like it just is this the way that you study in Korea is a little different from the US education. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really go along with how I like to study. And I'm someone who really good at things I'm very interested in. I'm not interested in everything. Like I'm not really interested in history. I'm not interested in like in literature. Like I'm just like very sciencey.
Yeah.
I like what I like. And
Yeah.
so I think deep down I really admired my orthodontist growing up, but I didn't have the grades for it. And then I had the opportunity. My dad took the opportunity as a diplomat here, and so we all moved out here, and I got the opportunity to study here. And I learned that as long as I study, I got good grades here. And then I was like, okay, then what was something that I really wanted to do that I I couldn't really dream of when I was in Korea. And I was like, I would love to be a dentist. So,
Mm-hmm.
since high school, when I moved here, I was very locked in. I already knew this is what I wanted to do. I took 2 years of dental assisting class in high school. It was like a program offered by Fairfax County Public Schools, because I lived in Northern Virginia. And so I did the 2 years, I did shadowing, and I was really locked in. I already knew I wanted to do this.
Wow, I did not know that you also had your feet wet like before dental school. You actually were a dental assistant, so you kind of know what the dental assistant shoes look like, especially when they're
Very
working with
much.
you,
Very
right?
much.
How they're like sometimes the clinician is thinking in their head and talking through their eyes, and you
Hmm.
expect the dental assistant to understand everything that we're trying to say.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
try to extend more grace to my dental assistants for that reason, because I know exactly how it can be. And I'm not perfect by any means. Like, I could definitely be a better dentist to my dental assistants. And those are things like, though I have that plasticity. So I know, to think in their shoes or be in their shoes, and like I can adjust my leadership skills and, whatnot, because I have that experience.
Yeah, no, that is a key experience because it gives you that autonomy to become that leader and work together. Because obviously, if we didn't have a dental assistant, the way we are faster, we couldn't be doing this. We could not have
Right.
like octopus hands that we can work with. Initially, when I came out of the dental school has no dental assistants. So you just try and work everything by yourself, and it's like hours and hours of work. And if you forget something, you have to go back,
Hmm.
get the stuff, restart again. And now when I did get the dental assistant, it was like a prestige, like luxury to have
Yeah.
somebody hold the suction for you, to talk to the patient while you're working. And if you don't make a team with them,
Yeah.
it's very hard. You
Yeah.
have to really dedicate some time for their understanding to work with us, like each of our personalities,
Yes, because and
right?
everyone's personality is different, and the dynamic is different. So figuring that out is definitely a part of the job, and
Mhm.
because you work with them for like, you spend more time sometimes awake working than at your own home. So you're really spending a lot of time with these people. So you really want to get to know how to work with them, and also just have that mutual respect. Like, know how to respect mutually. Because at the end of the day, you're human to human. You're working with, other people. And so having that people skill will take you a long way, and less conflict. Because who wants to have conflicts and, hard feelings at work?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Like communication is the key. If you're communicating really well with the dental assistant, I think they feel seen and they
Hmm.
feel acknowledged because they are really running around for us.
Right.
They
Truly.
they really are running around for us. And sometimes we throw these words that it might, I would say something that I think is right for me. I want an
Hmm.
instrument and she might know something different. And
Hmm.
if you're not talking and if you're not on the same page, and I'm just assuming she has a magic wand to understand it, it can just go the other way and I won't have a good relationship. And I think
Right.
that patient experience also suffers with it because the
Right.
patients can feel the tension, right?
Right. Right. And that's something that you gotta be careful. You really
Mm.
wanna, not transfer that, the conflict or the, energy over to, and spill over to the operatory.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like the negative energy. And I feel like if your relationship with your team is good, the patients feel it and they know
Hmm.
you're empathetic. And I think some of my trust developed because of my dental assistant, because
Hmm.
I'm from Pakistan. So I have a little different kind of thought process and thinking. So I might stutter a little bit initially
Hmm.
when I was presenting stuff. And my
Mm.
dental assistant was like my backbone because if I would miss out on certain words,
She'll
she
fill it
would
in.
help
Hmm.
fill it
Hmm.
in. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of that uh, mutual respect that you're saying came with it because I understood how important it was for my dental assistant and manager to be behind me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It makes your life
Yeah.
so much easier. They
So
are.
much easier, so much easier, especially with problem patients, they can help out.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
help them, please?
Right. And it can go the other way too. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure you have a good relationship. And if you have any conflicts, smoothing it out, at the end of the
Mm.
day, you're really there to work together and help the patients out. And you want that to be a priority at the end of the day. So in order to achieve that, you want to have a good relationship with your staff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I really agree. It's a teamwork. You cannot do anything by yourself. It is actually a teamwork.
Very
So
much.
you teaching students, how do you think it prepared you or not prepared you for your clinical associate
Yeah.
positions?
Yeah. It I think really going back to the communication skills and
Mm.
communication part was actually the major benefit to teaching, because I mean teaching students in 2024 2025 these days is it's not easy. And everyone's personality is very like very like I don't know, like it's very outgoing, like
Strong.
everyone's
Yeah.
very strong, and everyone has very different personalities and they're very outspoken too. So
Yeah.
um knowing how to communicate with them um and being able to lead and but at the same time again showing that respect, I think that was a huge learning, because I feel like my one of my hesitations for entering dentistry was actually because I wasn't sure if I would want to talk that much
Mm.
during working hours, or like interact with so many people, because I am quite an introvert. People wouldn't believe it, but I am quite introverted. I'm an extroverted introvert, and so
Yes.
I think that that was like my major concern, is like I don't know if I really love interacting with people that much. It was
Yeah.
a true
Yeah.
concern. And so and of course after I started the associate position, I learned so much more about patient management and communication, because even the things that I learned wasn't enough. In school, in my faculty position, it wasn't enough to get me through. Being an actual associate, and especially like busy working. And so because at school the pace is kind of slow, but in private practice it's not slow. So
Mm-hmm.
still being able to give it your 100% for every single patient that comes through, because no appointment is a small appointment. You still want to give it your best. So um being able to manage emotions, especially like in private practice, you have a lot of females in the practice, and like a lot of
Yes.
emotions run high. And
Very
so
high.
you just want to make sure that you still give it one patient doesn't affect the next patient, like you just want to keep it rolling smooth. And so I think that, and also as faculty, I was covering, and this might be just specific to the school I was teaching at, but I was covering 16 students at a time. 16
Mm.
students, 8 operatories. And so just like getting pulled like boom 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 boom
Yeah.
the dental chairs, that was also helpful in kind of the speed wise, or being able to really jump in. And because like when you're in school and you're like a you know like a student, whatever, you're everything's going well in conditions, and you only see so many patients, so you're not going to really encounter situations that don't go well. But
Yeah.
when you're teaching, you're really sometimes um help pulling the students out of the trouble that
A
they're
problem.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I learned a lot from that too, like things that I never thought I would have to handle. I was just like, oh, that's a new scenario, and I would have never. I may have not seen that for another 10 years, except for now I'm teaching. So I'm seeing those scenarios right in front of my eyes. So
Yeah.
that was definitely interesting.
Yeah. And I'm sure it taught you a very different you, right?
Yes.
When we are growing, we're under the wings of the parents, and we have an outlook that our parents have given us. So we see the world through that lens. But now that you're on your own, and I know you've been living on your own for a very long time, you're a very strong female. Now you have a different perspective because you have seen things that you have experienced yourself, and you can understand yourself better. right?
Yes.
Like how you
Yes.
said that if you're a student, everything's going okay. And you think no problem is going to ever touch me because I think correctly. But now you're with 16 students and every student personality is different. And
Mm-hmm.
nowadays in 2025, 2026, kids come with Instagram dental technology terms and they
Yeah.
come up with those Instagram posts.
Yeah.
I need my prep to be like this, or I need my extraction to be like this, or I need to be a dentist like this, right? And you're like, no, hold your horses. Hold
Yeah.
on. Let's
Yeah.
first numb the patient up. Let's first figure out how to numb the patient up, and then we
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah. It's like they want to run before they can walk. And I mean, the amount of times the students came up to me asking about the stamp technique for, restorations, the amount of times, like I would be
Yeah.
rich if I collected $1 every time they came with me about that. And I'm just like, here are the reasons why it's so
Yeah.
inefficient.
Yeah. And you will know.
um,
You will know when
yeah.
you open up a practice or you go to be an associate. You will know if this is the right technique to do or not. You're
Right,
right.
right. But
Yeah.
when you're in school, you're just like all these flashy techniques are like, ooh, I think that looks good. And like, but at the end of the day, you'll realize like that's not really realistic. Yeah.
No, it's just academia, academia.
Right.
So when you changed from student to now teacher, and now it was your first week of clinical dentistry, what were the struggles? What was your mindset shift?
From teacher to
A
clinical
clinician.
or
Yeah.
okay. I think definitely, I think just the amount of tasks that are like in your
Mm.
hands, like not just seeing the patients but the notes. And because as a faculty you're not really writing notes, so
Oh, true.
that task on top of everything else, like figuring out billing. And that was like the first thing that was the challenge. And then soon after it was like speed, like, or just when with any procedure, how do I become more efficient? What do you do when the patient's not getting numb? Like just really figuring things out on the
Mm.
fly. And for the most part I was alone practicing, so I just had to figure it out. I don't have someone, I don't have a faculty I can pull from the side and like, oh, can you figure this out for me? So that was like definitely still something that I had to figure out.
Hmm. And in the first few weeks, like 90 days, what was the most surprising thing you learned about yourself?
That I wasn't as fast as I thought I was. or like
Yeah.
or like I thought I was better at patient selection or case selection.
Hmm.
I thought I was better than I actually was. And so
Yeah.
had to learn that the hard way a couple times because I'm a little stubborn. So had to had to repeat that a couple times before I was like, okay, you got to let go of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So now, what would you say? How are you now?
I'm definitely I'm definitely in terms of like case selection, treatment planning, I'm very realistic. I mean, there are still things that I want to challenge myself to do, and if I have the time, I'll do it. But say it's a very busy week or whatnot, then I know how to let go. I know to refer. I know
Yeah.
to ask for help, because asking for help is another struggle that I had. Just being the type A, like got to figure it out by myself. Like I said, like you mentioned, I have been living here for alone by myself for a long time,
Mm.
so I've learned to be very hyper independent. So, um, learning to understand that it's okay to call you. How do I? Okay, I ran into this issue because
Yeah.
I really, even in school I didn't ask, which is honestly so dumb of me, because that's why you're in school. You're supposed to learn,
Ask.
ask. That's why you have so many faculty. They have so much experience they can share with. But I'm here, I'm like, I need to figure this out by myself, so
Yeah, I think
that's
it's just,
something.
yeah, I'm from, again, Asia, Pakistan, and you're from there too. I think our upbringing is kind of like that too, right? We kind of are told, be respectful, not ask too many questions, just keep quiet, or
Hmm.
just figure it out,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But in clinical dentistry, I think it is so hands on that if we bring that mindset, it hurted me too, because I had so much ego in myself. I thought, and I was a dentist in Pakistan. So when I came in and when I came to New York, I thought I could do it. Yeah, all
Yeah.
the rest of them are students. I'm from Pakistan. I've done a few extractions. I can do this. I've done a few root canals. I can do this. And I got stuck because I had a hard time asking questions after I got stuck. So I got more stuck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really badly
That's
got
real.
stuck. And then in the night I would be thinking, why are these all these people circling this faculty and asking questions, and why am I not approaching the same
Yeah.
way? So
Yeah.
I had to come out of the comfort zone to ask the questions. And it was for me, it was like an identity or a cultural shift, because I'm not used to asking. I'm maybe shy, or the pride is in the way. And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you don't realize it is really hurting. And once I started asking questions, that's where I started feeling I had more growth, and I was much relaxed. I wasn't tensed to do everything myself. And now
Yeah.
I'm a very good delegator. I can delegate things freely.
Yes. Yes. That's huge. I think, yeah, I'm glad you
Takes
brought
the
up that
pressure off
topic
you.
because yes, it's okay to delegate those questions. It's okay to delegate your tasks, and that will save you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get burnt out if you're
Mm-hmm.
able to delegate things. And that's another thing that I really like learned. I mean, I learned that pretty quickly. I was like, okay, can you do this? Can you help me with this? Like, with my staff too, and I'm comfortable asking them to step in and help me out with things. And I think that was something that I really had to learn because again, I used to not ask for any help, and people were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, everything is good," but in the inside, really, I was just like running around
Irritated.
just internally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because we're just making our own life and our own mindset miserable. And person in the front of us doesn't even know how to help us because we never told them that we needed help. It's hard to ask for help.
Yes. Yes.
And changing that mindset takes a lot of time and a lot of forward thinking, I
It
think,
does.
just to
It
ask for
does.
help.
But it is
Okay.
once you get to that point, it's very freeing. And so yeah, I encourage people who have a hard time doing that to try it out and see how you feel, and you'll realize that, oh my gosh, I just feel so much lighter.
Lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you get ideas through that because you might be stuck in one idea and be procrastinating and we're going down that rabbit hole. And now we talk to somebody else and we're like, oh, that is easy. I didn't think of that part. Right. And we
Yeah.
might be thinking all night long, just making ourselves miserable.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Overthinking. Yeah.
Overthinking, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
we've been,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it is a change that sometimes in clinical dentistry we have to bring in, otherwise we just get burned out. Already dentistry is so emotionally
Mm-hmm.
draining,
Yes.
very. We think we did beautiful work and it looks beautiful, everything looks beautiful, we have like our sweat equity in that filling. Patient
Mm-hmm.
bites
Mm-hmm.
down and says, it's hurting, it's not
Mm-hmm.
coming together, and they're back in, and you're like, what? I did such a beautiful work, what
You have
happened?
to
Why
take it
aren't you
out, which is
satisfied?
destroy the work. Yeah. You have to go back in and
Yeah,
destroy your beautiful work, and you're like, oh my gosh.
yeah, that beautiful filling that you did with nice and curves and grooves, it's flat now,
Mm-hmm.
and now the patient's
Mm-hmm.
happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you it's if you realize that earlier on, the better it'll be, really.
Yeah, it's easier on you. You become
Hmm.
a much more giving clinician, I think.
Yes.
Otherwise
Yes.
it can turn into burnout.
Burnout,
Yeah.
resentments, all the above. Yeah.
Resentment too. Yeah, then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do dentistry, or I don't want to do
It's not for
this,
me.
or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and things kind of go down that. um for when you were trying to look for associate positions, what were your criterias? How would you help somebody design it now if they were looking for an associate position and they have like tons of opportunities, what
Mm-hmm.
are the key things that you would advise somebody?
Yeah, so I would say, and I've shared this with my students as well, but I would say, first of all, figure out your goal. What is
Yes.
your, the 2 year, 5 year short-term goal? Because, is it to like open up your own practice, or is it to really just honestly just make a lot of money and pay off your loans as fast as you can? um, like, what is your family situation like? Are they flexible in moving? Where do you want to live? All of those really come into factor, really, because
Mm-hmm.
depending also where you go, and your pay is going to look different, the opportunities are going to look different. So I will say figure that out first. And once you figure that out, you can kind of narrow down the search a little bit. And then I would say, especially nowadays, you're going to see a lot of DSO options. Like, the DSO options, there are so many, there are bigger DSOs or smaller DSOs. There's like more of a multiple practice, private practice, companies as well. And so I would say, if you have narrowed down that you're going to say, like, for instance, like, you're going to just do DSO for, a couple years,
Mm-hmm.
then I would say, and in each DSO is a little different. They're not cut the same. So make maybe an Excel sheet of, pros and cons. And nowadays with Indeed and Reddit and whatnot, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to gather quite some information. And then in the Excel sheet, pros and cons, and like, this and that, and then also the salary range, the um benefits, just kind of lay
Correct.
it all out. And then from there, do the interview. And because that way you can first narrow down to like your, say, top 10, and then from there do the interview and see. You'll figure out through the interviews too what is actually important to you, like what is actually the priority to you. Like, is it to learn more? um if to have like a, because you're still going to be new, so do you want another dentist to be there to teach you? Do
Mm-hmm.
you still need help? Do you need a bit more hand holding, or do you need more continued education opportunities given by the company? Then that's another thing that you need to consider.
Mm.
um or sometimes community clinic is better for you. So also just knowing how you like to practice. And if you don't really have ambitions for like opening up your practice anytime soon, maybe community health clinic could be a good thing, especially if you like low stress environments, like less pressure to produce and whatnot. Then you might,
Mm.
community health could be better for you. And I have a lot of friends who are actually in community health and they're content. And some community health, like, they pay well as well, and the
Nope.
benefits are also good. Teaching is another option, and increasingly I see like my colleagues or my students reach out to me asking about like teaching opportunities, and how I got into it, and like what I liked about it, what I did not like about it. And that's another thing that you can look into, because especially if you are, female and you want to have a family and whatnot, sometimes teaching with the benefits, maternity leaves and those benefits could be worth it for you. And for your
That's good.
years you can do that. And you also have like loan repayment options with community health and teaching opportunities. So that's something that you might want to look into if you're more interested in the benefits.
Mm-hmm. I think you said it right. The first few sentences that you said it were perfect. Know where you want to live and what kind of dentistry do you want to do? Because
Mm-hmm.
not all dentistry is implants, not all dentistry is just bread and butter dentistry. There's so many avenues to it, like how you said, you actually were a teacher too. So you know that part. And um, it is really important for you to, for a person at maybe D3 stage, D2, D3 stage, once you're in the second or the third year, you should start understanding what kind of a person you yourself are. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And where would you like to live? And some kids have families that they're taking care of. Either they are
Right.
married with kids or they're taking care of their parents. That can be a possibility too. And it's important that they look at the whole round picture and see where they want to live what kind of money they're thinking of making. And yes, if the benefit is important, they should weigh those options out, because sometimes I've seen people. I was working for a DSO as well, and I've seen people get stuck in DSOs without reading contracts.
That's a huge one.
And they can get you really, really bad, because when we were coming out of NYU, we had DSOs come up with $60,000 bonuses, sign up bonuses. And some of them got into those bonuses without reading the fine, tiny prints underneath it.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
they weren't happy because they were put in these really remote areas and they weren't really happy there. And if they wanted to come out of it, they had to give up that $60,000.
Yes.
Now, if you haven't made $2,000 a day production because you're new grad, how are you going to give that $60,000 back? Right? Because you cannot. Now you're stuck. You're really, really deeply stuck with them. So understanding where you want to go, what kind of dentistry you want to do, and then reading contracts, I think it's a very, very important,
Yeah,
especially
I
the
think
bigger DSOs.
the fine print, that's where it really is at. And also just talking to like colleagues or your seniors who already work for
Mm-hmm.
those companies or have worked for the companies, talking to them, you know uh, you know arranging a phone call, that will really help because they'll give you the real picture, the actual picture of what it looks like to be working for that company. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just talking to a friend just now before this call, and we were talking about a colleague who is stuck in a 2-year contract because they negotiated a very high sign-on bonus, but now, you know, they're having to perform procedures the way they don't even want to, but they're stuck because they can't
Correct.
pay back the sign-on bonus, and it's reality. This is
Yeah.
reality. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because some of the DSOs, they are backed by somebody else's money who's not a dentist, like they're called venture
Mhm.
capitalist, or they have funding and they don't know how clinicians work, so they are just pushing numbers down, and they're
Mhm.
just using your license to produce. So they
Mhm.
don't care how are you going to produce those numbers, they just want those numbers. And if your
Yeah.
conscience is not sitting right with that, it's tough. So I think one of the major questions, whoever is listening, and you guys get a chance to ask questions, make sure you ask the question of autonomy. How much autonomy do you have
Mhm.
in doing your own treatment plan and presenting it? Because if they say you're you're just a clinician and you're going to work, but there is a non-clinical treatment coordinator who is
Mhm.
doing the treatment plan and dictating the treatment plan, you probably want to think about that twice, and like just how you said, talk to colleagues about it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's where you get stuck.
Yeah, and so I will also just add that, whatever bonus that you sign on with, you will end up having to pay that back, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
actual money or through moral or mental
Mm-hmm.
suffering. Because
Yeah.
yeah, and even especially the non-compete, make sure you look
Oh,
at that because they will go after you if you like break that, the fine print contract, because and they will sue you. They will definitely sue you, and they have no issue suing you if
no.
you end up breaching that. So just keep that in mind. Hmm.
Yeah, they can make your life really miserable with
I've
this
seen it
sign up
happen.
bonus.
Hmm.
Hmm. With the sign up bonus, with restrictive covenants, they can come back because they have the money to do it. It's not the dental office that's doing it. It's the people who are funding that DSO who are after
Hmm.
you, and they have really strict contracts. So be very, very careful when you're signing your life away with that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
and I think.
Maybe
Sorry, go ahead.
maybe it's for like 5 years, and if you can manage through those 5 years and still be ethical, pull it through, because you are going to become a better clinician at the end of that tunnel, um, if you have if you're able to go through it, and you want to take that challenge, take it as a challenge. But if you're trying to break it in the middle, yeah, just know that you might have to pay quite a lump sum money, and sometimes we don't have that because we just graduated and we have all
Yeah, you have
these
to pay off
loans and thugs.
something. Yeah. Or like
Yeah.
moving, or everything's expensive these days. So that'll you will see the bottom barrel bottom of the barrel of the sign-on bonus so quickly, and so you won't
Mm-hmm.
have anywhere to pull that back from. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. Let's talk about one, I think, last little point that I wanted to talk about was um, when we are students, we are taking like good an hour, 2 hours to do like a single filling and things like that. How would you suggest new graduates come out of that mindset? Like, what can they do right now in their D4 year, final year, that can make them a little bit more faster so they can transition better into the clinical dentistry once August comes in and they're hired?
Okay. um I will say, I think when you're in school, you see all these tools, and you're gonna like, I need to use every single tool, or else my
Hmm.
filling's not gonna turn out good. Or and I know everyone's technique is very different, but my technique is that I use minimal tools, and my preps are extremely fast because I already know the end point of this preparation.
Mm.
I'm not like going in like with a question mark, like how big this filling is going to be. Like, I, for the most part, know. It's like very rare that they surprise me, because like 9.9 out of 10 times I know exactly how this prep is going to end. So
Correct.
I waste no time in the prep, and I know exactly. I keep it to one burr. I know in school you're using like 5 burrs minimum, but you really want to just stick to one, maybe two
Mm.
burrs to get to the end of the prep. And then from there, you're gonna have your like etch bond, and like um you're just going to use one tool to shape, one or maybe two tools to shape
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
composite. And you want to also again think about the end occlusion before you build it all up,
Make it beautiful.
and then have to bring it all down. um and so just thinking steps ahead is so important when it comes to like dentistry in reality. Most of the patients that you'll see won't have the classic class 2 beautiful class 3. You're gonna be under the gum line, you're gonna see some blood, and you're gonna have all the like hypocalcified areas that you have to take out, and now it's not a perfect prep anymore. But
Nope.
that's the reality, and most of the fillings that you do will end up there. So keep that in mind too. So, sometimes you just gotta really work fast, because sometimes bleeding isn't gonna be that controllable. So you just gotta really work fast, and you know, you just gotta like keep the next steps in mind. And for me, the way that I work with my assistants is, I already, now they know me better, so they already have things prepared for me. But the f-
Mm-hmm.
the many times, like before they got to this point, I just told them, wait, like in ahead, like, okay, I'm gonna need the explorer next, I'm gonna need this next, so they have it already ready. Because again, we're not trying to waste time here, right?
Mm.
And so that's something that you just have to kind of repetitively kind of train yourself to do. But just keeping that end picture, end goal in mind, it really helps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. You will be under the gum. There will be class two bleedings coming out. And now you have to do a composite where they teach you that it should be in a dry field. I don't understand that. But
Hmm.
hey, that's the reality of the materials we work with, right? Now, how are you going to use 10 burrs during that time? You can't be using a needle and a taper burr and this burr and that burr and then do a soft caries removal. You have to work fast. You're perfectly right. So I think maybe for D3, D2s, when they're working with patients, try and see, do the best prep and
Hmm.
time yourself,
Yeah.
right? And see how much you have used and see from that onwards what can you cut off in your step. Do you
Yeah.
really need to turn around and use another burr and shift it? Do you need to turn around and use another tool to really make it beautiful?
Yeah.
um, and see how you can just work your whole thing backwards
Yeah.
and see where you can cut the extra steps off.
Exactly. And like, I think when I was teaching too, I mean, it's it's super important that you know how to make a very beautiful, perfect class 2 prep. It really is, because that means you have good control over your handpiece and your burr. Um,
Mm.
and so that's very important. But, that's not going to be realistic at the end of the day. So eventually, you're going to like learn to, okay, my prep had to be a lot bigger than that, because now
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I have carries left over. Second of all, I don't have enough room to restore. None of my instruments are fitting, so you gotta, you
Yeah.
gotta learn how to, set yourself up for success for the restorative parts.
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true. And then obviously working um, in a way that you still have a next patient sitting. Maybe
Hmm.
there's another root canal sitting there. Maybe there's a crown prep sitting there. So be aware of your timing. We
Yes.
cannot be switching burrs just we want to make the prep beautiful. We still have somebody else sitting on the side, maybe just for a prophy. And it is a reality in private practice, and it is a
Yes.
reality in a family practice or a DSO. You still have another patient sitting. So I think
Yes.
also having a goal in mind of how much money you want to make in a month or a year's time. You take all your expenses and you see those are like your delivery bills, like those are expenses that are coming out of the pocket regardless. And then you see how much money you want to make, and then you again step by step come down and see how much are you making an hour on that chair. And I think when I started thinking like that, my burrs and my instruments started
Mm-hmm.
shrinking, because
Mm-hmm.
now I was like, okay, if this is just a class 1 prep and it's just one filling that I'm doing, um I need to make sure that I'm fast and it's
Mm-hmm.
good and it is ethical and it is going to stay for as much long as the material can stay in there for, right? I'm just not going to slap it in and be done with it, because otherwise I'll see the patient again for zero production in a
Yeah.
few days. But understanding how much money you're making in that chair for that hour, um, I think gives you a little perspective,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
of how to cut the steps off, because
Yeah.
nowadays digital dentistry has made a lot of efficiency in our workflow already, and a lot of things assistants can do too.
Yeah. And I mean, like, just for extraction, like, if that extraction patient in your chair, if that's taking longer than, 10, 15 minutes, you're already lost,
Yeah,
or,
you've lost
or
your time.
yeah. And I tell my, I used to tell my students, like, if you're struggling with one instrument for longer than 30 seconds, move on, do something else, because that's not
Mm,
working.
mm,
Either change your angle, change it, like, s- take the handpiece. It's not working. You got to try something else. And
absolutely.
yeah, that's something that I also like get efficient every single time I perform the procedure. But and you will get there. It's just that, I mean, the students will get there. It's just that it just sometimes it takes time. It takes that, 2 hours of just bullet sweating. It'll take a
Yeah,
couple of those, and that's okay. That's okay. That's how you
yeah,
learn, and learning that, oh, I don't want to do that ever again.
yes,
And
yes.
then you learn.
Yes, absolutely. There has been times in my initial times that I got stuck in these molar extractions and I was alone. I didn't know how to take it out. It wouldn't move.
Hmm.
And you're just sweating away and it's been 2 hours and the patient's already, the numbing's going
Tired.
away. Now you're numbing them up again. And it feels very draining. And
Hmm.
you sometimes think this is not for you. Why am I here?
Yeah. Now, like, I'm traumatized with the patient. I'm traumatized by this
Yeah.
experience, and now you're like, oh, what are we doing
Yeah.
here? Yeah.
What are we
Hmm.
doing here? And again, it comes to communication, I guess. Ask for help. Ask for help
Hmm.
fast. When you, I think your mind and heart kind of knows that after 5, 10 minutes, you know that this is a tough
Hmm.
situation. Ask for
Hmm.
help at that time.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sit in there for another and waste another 5, 10 minutes, because then it's
Yeah.
going
I
to just
mean,
go down.
right. That's pretty much me.
Yeah.
That used to
But
be me. Used to be
used to.
me.
Yeah. So now
Hmm.
that you have been in clinical dentistry for this many years, um, are you developing a sense of what you really like in dentistry? Because dentistry is more like such a vast field. We start off with everything. with
Mm-hmm.
sealants to prophy to fillings to everything and implants. And then slowly, as we mature and we see patients and we see our own clinical skill develop, we kind of like, oh, I really like this part of dentistry more, or
Yeah.
I hate this part of dentistry. Like me
Yeah.
doing dentures is like a toughie. I'm like, can somebody take my denture patient, please? It's just like I've developed something with dentures.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that now is it? Do you feel like dentistry has a little niche that you like doing more?
Yeah. I I don't think it's changed. It's I've figured that out since dental school.
Mm,
And so I already had a sickle. I knew exactly, like, even if you ask my friends, like, they know exactly what I've wanted to do since dental school. And it's cosmetic dentistry. It's because, for me, well, it's not necessarily just cosmetic dentistry, but that's my favorite. What I
mm,
really like is the instant gratification that the patients feel.
mm.
I like that.
Yes.
Like when they're out of pain and they're happy the tooth is out, they're so happy. They're just like so grateful. They love it.
Yeah.
um like with same with cosmetic, instantly they see the change and they love, and like I love aesthetic things, and so I love seeing that they think that it's aesthetic. Like, I love seeing other people happy. And same, the other things like braces or dentures, the end result is typically good, but it takes time, it takes a lot of like the
A
grunts and
lot of
like
appointments.
yeah, and disappointment. Oh, what am I not going home with my denture tonight? Like, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
those that makes it less appealing to me. But overall, like the teeth looking good at the end of the day, that is so gratifying for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And I love
That
when patients
feeling.
are happy. Yes.
Yeah.
And when they're happy to come see me again, because like they've been telling people how wonderful
I
their smile
know.
has been, so that I just love so much. And I
Yeah.
cannot wait to that keeps me going, that keeps me in this field. And I I can do that every day, all
Yeah,
day.
because you can
Mhm.
see your end result. You're like, oh, if this patient wants this, I know how exactly to give it to him his expectations,
Yeah,
right? And they
and
just feel so
gratifying. Hmm.
gratified. Yeah,
Hmm.
they feel happy.
Yeah,
So, what is the one thing that you want your patients to remember about you?
that that I was there for them when they
Hmm.
needed help.
Hmm.
um Really, because at the end of the day, I think we all are in this to help our patients, and
Hmm.
um to see them win. Because so many patients have, past traumatic experiences, or just, they felt like they were unheard by their dentist, or
Hmm.
whoever. And just like the fact that I was able to hear them out, and give them what they wanted, and help them out in the ways that they didn't think was possible. I want them to know that there are good dentists out there, because we hear oftentimes so many times that, oh, I hate the dentist, or like, I no
Hmm.
offense to you, but I hate dentists. We hear that so many times. I feel like I hear that way too often. And
Yeah.
I want more patients to be like, oh no, I love my dentist. I love
Yeah.
seeing my dentist. And I think that's how I want to be remembered, is that, yeah, like numbing is not fun, but I love my dentist.
Correct, correct. This is so true. Nobody likes the numbing, but they still come back and see you because they see that you're empathetic. I think what you said was very true. They want to be heard and they want things in a very simple communication style, I guess. So if you're just sitting there and listening to the concern and not giving too much dental jargon to them, I think they start building a lot of trust already because
Hmm.
they can understand that you're hearing them out. Then that
Yeah.
needle doesn't matter to them. They will keep coming back
Yeah.
because they're like, no, she listens.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I
And
think
that
as a
goes a long
clinician,
way.
very satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't want to just be a wall. I want to reciprocate. I want to have a relationship with my patients. Like, I want them to bring their friends. I want them to bring their family, because
Hmm.
I can be trusted. And that is also very gratifying whenever, I hear from a new patient, like, oh yeah, like someone sent me, like, I heard you're the best. I'm like,
Yeah.
I appreciate
Oh, that is,
it.
yeah, your whole
Yeah.
day goes like you're on the
Yeah,
clouds
you're like on
because you're
cloud
like, oh,
nine.
this is what I'm
Yeah.
here for. This is exactly what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why we do what we do. Mm-hmm.
what we do. And it comes with a lot of humbleness and a lot of patience and
Yeah.
a few years
Mm-hmm.
into this and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Yoon, pleasure to talk to you. I'm very grateful that you're working with us and you're taking care of our foster office so beautifully. You've become such a good leader. Your team loves you. You've done outings with them. You're going outside in the community. You're just like wholeheartedly dedicated to being a great clinician that you are. And she is a very good aesthetic dentist. I've seen her work. She is really transforming smiles. Patients love her. And today we heard some backstory about her. I didn't know she was a dental assistant. She wet her feet like a really long time ago. And she gave us a perspective of transitioning and her hurdles. So thank you so much again for being a leader in your classroom and being a leader in our office. And thank you for listening, everyone. This is Nazis Jaffrey from Secure Dental Podcast. And till next time, have a great night.